Welcome. Before we jump into today's conversation, here's a brief introduction to the mind behind this global movement. Jerome Hutchinson Jr. is a visionary, trailblazer, and innovative social impact entrepreneur. In 1998, Mr. Hutchinson launched Kentucky's first Black-owned television station, WYCS-TV. He is also the founder and chief servant officer of the ICABA World Network, established in November 2009. The ICABA World Network is a global online ecosystem that empowers Black professionals and entrepreneurs to achieve success in their careers, businesses, and lives. Through its technology, programs, events, and community, ICABA showcases Black excellence, advances wealth creation and leadership to elevate the global Black professional diaspora. As part of the ICABA World Network in 2009, Mr. Hutchinson developed and launched the ICABA Community, the world's first online community for Black professionals and entrepreneurs. Today, the ICABA Community 6.0 delivers valuable connections, communication, collaboration, and engagement through defined spaces for groups and organizations, as well as online courses. Since 2009, Mr. Hutchinson has been building a global movement that celebrates Black professional excellence and empowerment by recognizing and profiling more than 1,300 accomplished Black professionals and entrepreneurs in its signature recognition publications, social media posts, and articles. ICABA has also hosted over 400 impactful events, engaging more than 20,000 professionals and entrepreneurs worldwide. In 2021, ICABA launched Black Professionals Month, which is recognized annually in October to enhance focus on Black professional excellence worldwide. In September 2025, ICABA's Thrivin Podcast debuted on ICABA-TV, hosted by Mr. Hutchinson.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction. The check is in the mail, and I want to just tell you guys I'm so excited. About 6 months ago, I met a gentleman, and he has been very impactful in the continued expansion of ICABA's digital platform. And I also realized that his platform was uniquely designed to assist us to help you to take your brand, your organization, or your company into the next level in terms of customer client engagement, driving revenue, and also being able to really engage and turn those folks who are customers into ambassadors. And so we're going to talk about the power of online communities for your brand, for your companies, and for your organization. And I'm just excited to have Spencer Lussier here with us. He is a founder, builder, and operator with a track record of turning vision into product and product into revenue. As CEO of Network, he has led the company from concept to scale, architecting their go-to market strategy, leading product, and closing an oversubscribed investor round. He's now in the midst of a successful second raise with strong momentum and capital coming in from top-tier limited partners. He's building Network around a core belief that trusted communities are the new GTM distribution, and the future of growth lies in activating owned networks rather than renting audiences. They're scaling quickly with a close to 8,000% growth in monthly users and over 1,000% annual revenue growth, which has been driven by their consistent product velocity and meaningful customer pull across B2B and customer use cases. Clearly, there's a lot of great things going on with that Thrivin. They're on a major upward trajectory of growth. And, it didn't happen just because Spencer is just a great guy, but he's also assembled a lean, high caliber team that operates with velocity, ownership, and deep customer empathy. They move fast, prioritize clarity, and focus on what drives results. One of the things that excites me about the company Network that we work with and our ICABA community is using the Network platform is that they have actual people that you can talk to when you have an issue and when you have a problem. And I know everyone here is used to getting online and getting caught in that chat bot hell, I call it sometimes. And the fact that you could actually talk with somebody, meet with them, email them, message them, is all the difference in the world. And so, I wanted to bring Spencer on, as we want to help you to grow your brand, your community, and also your organizations and companies. And I can't think of a better person to help us do that today. So, Spencer, welcome to Thrivin.
Awesome.
Let me ask you to share some things about network that, I didn't say that you want the people to know. And then we're going to kind of jump into this discussion today about how to grow your brand, grow your company and organization with online communities.
Okay. Well, Jerome, thanks for having me here. Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening in. I know we've got a lot of people who are joining us live. And I think I see some, it's a global audience here. So that's always nice, having all these different time zones. And Jerome, I know we'll be sharing this. I believe it's being recorded, so we'll share it. So anyone who might have missed it, be sure to catch the recording. And I'm happy to be here. Jerome and I met each other, I think, Jerome, what you said about 6 months ago?
Yep.
And since then, I've been really fortunate to, build a relationship with Jerome, and I've gotten to witness, it's been a real pleasure getting to witness firsthand his vision and his business acumen, and how he sees the power of community really transforming not only his business, but businesses across a range of verticals and horizontal solutions. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk to kind of what our journey's been and what we're seeing in the industry, but it's really exciting, and there's a lot of room for growth here. And I look forward to, diving into the details here during this podcast. This is cool.
Well, fantastic, Spencer. Looking forward to the same thing. So let's jump right in. We're in the digital age. AI is now the rage of conversation and what's driving a lot of the businesses these days. But we're also coming through a period where social media, has been kind of like the big dog. Everybody was trying to figure out, what's my role? What's my opportunity? How do I build my brand? How do I monetize my brand? How do I activate customers through social media, and so on and so forth? And one of the things I liked as I was reading your bio was that, you were saying the future in growth lies in activating owned networks rather than renting audiences. And one of the cool things about an online community that you own, is that if you have your own community, no one can kick you off. Okay, so you don't have to worry about IG or Facebook not liking what you're doing and deciding that, hey, you need to hit the road, Jack. And all of what you've done to build your community, engage with audiences at the blink of an eye and at the snap of a finger could actually just all be gone. Poof. And you don't have anything left. And so when people ask me why your own community, versus, just building out on any of their platforms, no doubt there's great opportunity there to gain awareness and so on. But at the end of the day, if you're serious about this, having your own space is really critical. Talk about that, Spencer, and elaborate on that particular piece.
Sure, absolutely. That's a topic that we talk a lot about. So hopefully got some good insight for you and for our listeners. As you said, when you think about the usual suspects of social media, I'm sure for everybody, there's probably 3 to 8 that really come to mind. And, there's no doubt that those apps, those companies serve a purpose. But one of the things, those companies have been around for a long time. I always kind of say Web 2 versus Web 3. They're certainly in that original legacy era of social media. They were the trailblazers that really kind of created where we are today, but the future is looking a lot different than what the past was. And, with social media, pick any of the apps. They're great for reaching audiences. They're great for outward distribution. They're great for reaching eyeballs, but they also have, limitations and challenges. So, on one side we hear, I'd rather have, 100 highly engaged members, contributors, customers than 1,000 or 10,000 passive eyeballs on social media, whether you call it, followers or subscribers or connections. So the idea that businesses can unlock, increase revenue and increase growth through the power of community is really what we're seeing. And of course, when we say community, that's a very broad term, and it's also becoming a buzzword. And what we mean by community is, an organization, a business is certainly a community. So all of the communities on network, they're businesses, and some of them are very large businesses. Some of them are very small businesses, all the way down to, almost like a sole proprietorship. And within the community, they want to engage their customers or their prospective customers. They want to nurture them with compelling content, resources. So for example, if, almost like a newsletter, I have a list of prospects that I'm nurturing and I can build loyalty and trust with before the point of purchase. For my existing customers or my existing clients, I can add additional value to them. I can give them access to resources, access to opportunities through my community. So a community for us really is an organization, and an organization is delivering value to its stakeholders. And you just can't really do that on social media. You might have a group component, but social media, you're subject to the algorithm. You're subject to a lot of competing priorities. Also, you have almost zero ownership. If you ever want to, you can't even access the emails of the people who follow you on social media. How do you get their access to their email? How do you get access to the data that you're engaging? It's just zero ownership. And that's really challenging. And then from a monetization perspective, that's also very limiting. How do you use social media to generate more revenue for your business? It's very limiting, at least directly through those tools. So I'll just kind of stop there. I know we've got a lot more to unpack, but hopefully that's a little bit of a tip of the iceberg response, Jerome, to your question.
Well, it is, and you hit a couple of points that I really were hoping that you would, and I want to add one in, and this is something that is came to me from someone who had a Facebook group, and they came to me and said, "Hutch, I've got a Facebook group, and I've got several thousand people in my Facebook group, but I'm finding a problem in communicating with them." And I said, "Okay, well, what's the problem?" And the problem that they had was they would post something in their page, okay, and in their group on Facebook, and it didn't reach, but a very small percentage of the people that were in. He says, "How can it happen? If I've got 3,000 people in here, but I find I'm only reaching 10% of them, what's up with that?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what's up with that. They want you to boost, that post and pay to advertise to those people that you have." And so one of the things that, we talked about a little bit earlier is that when you are on social media, you got to keep in mind, it's like I tell people as a race, I'm going to use an analogy of going to Las Vegas. Okay. If you go to Las Vegas to gamble and you think that you've got something that you figured out and you're going to be able to beat the house and make money, you really got another thing coming. No one is going to create a business and spend the kind of money that they spend to create casinos in Las Vegas without feeling pretty damn sure that they are going to win more times than they lose, and a whole lot more times than they lose. It's just built into the DNA. And so, you just can't think that you're going to go out there and win. You might get lucky, okay? And they're going to allow a certain number of people to get lucky because that's part of their allure. But you got to realize the chances of you walking away with more money than you walked in there with is pretty low.
I could not agree more. And that's the first time I've heard that analogy or that metaphor. And I love it because it's so true. And what I'm hearing from that is this idea of control over outcomes. Right. Yes, you can get lucky, but do you have control over that luck? No. And that's exactly what social media is. And, to put that into context, at least as it relates to the power of community as a business driver, I'll say it this way. Think about any social media app platform. Jerome, you mentioned Facebook groups. That's certainly on the list. You can post, your business or your marketing team or your lead gen team can post content, and hopefully it reaches a certain audience. So reach being the key word. Really, the algorithm is what controls that, as opposed to direct ownership of that reach. And you hinted to that, Jerome. But how do you get people? You know, 'cause we always hear this idea that, oh, these platforms that exist that have hundreds of millions, if not billions of users, oh, it's easier to grow my business there because people are already on that platform. And I always just am a bit taken aback by that reaction, because it's really not true, because you have no control over the outcome. You can post content and maybe your LinkedIn page will grow by 10 followers in a day or in a month or a quarter. You know, we see customers on Networked that have like 10 or 100 followers on their page across social media, but have hundreds of members in the community because there's so much more control. So as a business unit, you know, you're out there talking to customers on a reoccurring basis. You can have control over getting them to join your community. And once they're in the community, you know, it's this, the potential is limitless. You can nurture them with exciting content, resources, webinars, workshops, online courses, curriculums, you name it, that's adding value to them. So you're nurturing them. Your services, your product, your business is staying top of mind to your community members, and your community members could be thought of as leads, prospects, or even current customers and clients. And then, of course, as you nurture them, you're converting them to purchase.
Right.
Or if they're already a paying customer, you can extend the lifetime value or the amount of services that you're able to sell or offer that specific person. So control over your outcomes is critical. And in a second, Jerome, I'd love to tell you more about what we're seeing, you know, not just in control over, I can build my own community, I can have it tailored to meet my unique needs, my business needs, but how do I make sure that my content, talk about reach, gets in front of my community members? Because, for example, if they're not going into the community, are they going to see it? And I'd love to talk about that when you're ready, because we got some really cool ideas and some opinions on that.
Yeah, I have an idea what you probably want to share as well. But you know, as we segue here, I want to kind of put a little bit of a wrap and summary about the power of community and what it can do for you. And you were talking about, you know, the control, and you do have control of your ability to message, control of the user experience, and a lot of different things. But the control allows you to do something that's critically important, and that is to activate engagement. Engagement is really the key. That interaction with people in your community, you know, you can get them there for a lot of different reasons, but you don't keep them there if you don't engage them and you get them activated. And you definitely don't monetize them if you don't do that as well. And so as it relates to the difference between having an audience on social media and in the community, really lies in engagement, trust, and how you're able to keep them engaged and maintained. It also gives you, as you're talking about, bypassing those algorithms where you've got direct access, and you don't have to question about whether or not you're reaching somebody, because you have it if you win. That goes back to that control. But let's talk a little bit about the benefits and opportunities that come from those, you know, online communities. Your ability to build credibility, visibility, you know, thought leadership, you know, being able to convert your followers into supporters and clients and ambassadors is what I really like to talk about. And you're creating, you know, some safe space, and your ability to communicate with them is a real key to how well you do that. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know you got something that you want to share that Network provides as a unique, if you will, opportunity for people to be able to communicate with those who are in their communities. And so let's talk about, you know, the benefits and how we create.
Absolutely. I think, you know, Jerome, to your point, it's about standing out, you know, from a sea of noise, which is very much what social media is today. I mean, you know, we work a lot with coaches or niche experts who are, you know, selling their services to clients. And that might manifest itself through, you know, workshops, webinars, courses, you know, portal, you know, client to coach portal. And that right now we're talking a lot in the professional world, which is certainly true. But, you know, a niche expertise could even transform into the more personal world, or maybe even the athletic world, For example, we see coaches are these niche experts or niche expertise yoga instructors. I'm a yoga instructor. I have a portfolio of clients, and the services that I'm providing are, of course, yoga related. Or I am a trainer or physical therapist, and the services I'm providing are athletic conditioning and training related. So it doesn't have to be executive coach only, niche experts, but the idea of building standing out in the sea of noise. Everybody has a LinkedIn page, a Facebook page, etc. This idea of having a community that adds value, that adds additional value to your customers is absolutely critical. It also establishes you as a key opinion leader, as a domain expert in your relevant subject matter expertise. So community is a huge driver for differentiation for businesses and a way to really stand out in that sea of noise. Jerome, I think that's kind of what you were hinting to, but I'll pass it back to you.
Well, there's no doubt it does allow you to stand out. I think that when you have folks in the community, one of the other things that you also have, people talk about trying to find their tribe these days. And we talk about, building that village. But as it relates to, having that tribe, generally the communities are built around an affinity that people have for either individuals, topics, industries, or whatever. So it's going to get you out of that sea of noise into a lake of calm, where you're going to be with those folks that want to talk about, want to be about, want to meet people who are doing things that are similar, or if you will, like-minded, or similarly positioned. The other thing is that it allows you to really curate. So you're not just having all kinds of things thrown out, but you're really getting content that is really focused on the things that you're interested in. And that's the reason why you're in that community. The people who come into the ICABA community, they come because they're interested in being able to connect with other like-minded and similar positioned Black professionals who are interested in advancing wealth creation, who are interested in elevating leadership, who are interested in showcasing Black excellence. So they're now coming into not only an area that's relevant, but it also creates trust and a trusted community where you can talk to people and share both your aspirations and your fears, because you've got people that you can really relate to. So, I wanted to throw back to you as we were talking about that. When you're looking at this from the standpoint of being an organization, I talked about how the relevancy and that tribe, but also as a influencer, as an example. If you're an influencer and you're talking to a lot of people on social media, you can reach a lot of people. There's no doubt about it. And what I tell people all the time, use social media to be a pipeline to your community. Because as you said, let's go from renting these people, to actually owning, the content. And also that content has a way to being able to extend itself beyond, because your content is not going to last that long on social media. People are not scrolling down to things that you did like 4 months ago. But in your community, you have ways of being able to post that content in different ways to keep it, if you will, alive months and months down the road. So tell me a little bit about how you can do that, Spencer.
Absolutely. And what you're talking to is the way you can organize and structure your community, which you just literally cannot do on any social platform at all. I mean, not even a little bit. But I actually want to go back to a point that you raised, or maybe better said, a transition. Right now, our discussion has really been through the lens of the business owner, the person who's thinking about unlocking the power of community to turbocharge their business. But the nuance, the transition that you just illustrated was a change in the point of view, which was more the community member, the participant, who's joining communities of interest. And I think that's something that deserves to be talked about, because, you said curated interests, access to curated opportunities that they're passionate about, as opposed to a lot of noise or a lot of advertisements that they're not. And of course, there's always a time and a room, across social for self-promotion, or to see funny videos that you find interesting and just kind of get in that, like loop of engagement where you're just watching a series of funny videos that you lost 10 minutes on. All of a sudden 10 minutes passes. But, access to purposeful opportunities aligned to your interests is so relevant and so true, and really at the heart of communities. Jerome, look at your ICABA community. You mentioned what it is that the value that you're offering your customers, your community members, and what that does for your community members is that they know that when they're going to ICABA community, they know what they're getting. They're going there for very specific reasons. My father always kind of says, you don't go to the doctor unless you need the medicine. So this idea of purposeful interaction, purposeful access to opportunities that align to your interests is so true. And that's the beauty of a community. And communities really can take the shape of any type of mission or niche. We have a really cool community that is one of my favorites. It's a surfing community out in San Fran. And it's this group of, 20 to 30-year-olds who all live in a close, geography that is San Fran. And they get to their hobby, what bonds them is their passion for surfing. And, the person who's running it, is generating a livelihood through this. The people who are members of the community are, paying monthly fees to gain access to all the opportunities, all the value that this surfing coach is putting together. The time that it takes to organize events, add value, networking, peer-to-peer relationships, professional development, all that is coming to life. And then, of course, they get together on the weekend and actually go surfing. How cool is that? So you can kind of remove so much noise through a community because a user opts into this community because it's aligned to their interests. It's aligned to what motivates them, which is I think, just so profound and also so cool to see that. And on another scenario, we've seen a community. It's focused on DE&I, and it's focused on women advancement specifically. So it's a woman-focused group, also for young professionals, but it's all around golf. And golf is really, that's sort of like the leading catalyst that unites the community. But golf isn't the point. What it is it's breaking down barriers. It's breaking ice to help people build relationships in their early career for professional women. It helps them access to, curriculum development, professional skill development that would be useful in the workforce. And golf is, of course, kind of the glue that unites them. But the point is the individual's perspective versus the community manager or the business perspective. So you always have two lenses when you think about a business or a community. You have the community owners or the business owners and the employees of that business. And you have the customers or the clients or the members who are receiving value from that business. And that's the beauty of this. So you have that, very synergistic relationship between the company and the client or the customer or the member or community to participant. I'll pause there.
Well, let's jump in. Tiana has a comment here about what's a good way to grow a community naturally without coming out spammy or salesy. And she feels like sometimes posting every day might just annoy people or make them unfollow. And based on her comment, it sounds like to me she's on a social media platform and maybe she's thinking about getting into a community. So Tiana, I'm gonna ask Spencer to kind of respond, and it looks like she has a Facebook group. Okay, I'd asked her if what she was doing. So she has a Facebook group that she helped her sister create, and yes, you're right, Tiana, in terms of your people may unfollow, but at the end of the day, what I tell people all the time, the frequency of content is trumped by the value and the relevancy of the content. And Spencer, I'll let you take that and kind of run and respond to it as well.
Absolutely. And Jerome, that's even the second part of what you said previously, which is, you don't need to be posting twice a day, multiple times a week, the way you do on social media when it comes to our community, because if you think about the structure of social media, it's basically a feed. So every time you post something, within literally seconds, there's 10 more posts. So your users, your audience aren't necessarily seeing your post. And then therefore it's this sort of like this rat race to always be posting more and more just to get that post in front of your target audience. So it's really challenging and then unlike that, when it comes to a community, A community isn't so real time where you're always on the treadmill having to post for the sake of posting because of this concept of ownership. So when you post something, maybe it's in the way you've structured your community. So for example, maybe your community has a space for events, and there you're basically, think of it as a calendar of all of your upcoming events. And you might have an event every Friday. That's just like a Friday get together for the community members. Or
Right.
maybe you have an event that's like a new member meet and greet. Or maybe you have an event that's on a certain topic. So if members of the community are interested in that topic, they'll attend that event. But the point is there's a designated space for your events. And you might have another designated space for discussion. So if people want to have conversations, it can occur there naturally, much more peer-to-peer, much more networking oriented, as opposed to the structure of a feed, which is basically just a nonstop bulletin board. And it's very challenging. To the question at hand, which is, how do you kind of grow your community without coming salesy? You mentioned that, I think I saw it in the caption, that you helped your sister create a Facebook group. We see that all the time where someone starts on a Facebook group, and because that's top to mind, it's what people are aware of. So it's a very natural starting point. But then they actually are doing it and they're realizing the limitations of it. And that's when they're looking for something more. So one of the things that we see is, well, if you have a group, maybe you have 5 people in that group. Maybe you have 5,000 people in that group. A natural starting place is, do you already have a list of people? If yes, that's great. But we also see communities that start and they have no one to market to or to invite. So we see both ends of the spectrum. But with that Facebook group, you can just add a link that says, hey, Facebook group members, we have this new custom community. It's going to have a lot more value, a lot more benefits. If you like what we're sharing in the group, you're going to love it even more in the community. Here's a link, and you can migrate people. And that's also same thing for influencers across social media. So it doesn't have to apply just to a group, but imagine you're maybe a TikToker, a YouTuber, a podcaster, an influencer in general, and you might have an audience. Maybe you have 10 people that follow you, 10,000 people that follow you, 100,000 people that follow you. You can post about your community, and basically it doesn't necessarily replace, it coexists. So if you're using Instagram to reach, big audiences, kind of like the sea going fishing, you can keep posting on social media, but then you can actually say, hey, if you're interested, add a post, add a story, add a link, and you're directing people into your community. So that's what we always see. That's a big part of our best practices that we talk about. How do you kind of go from, day one launch to, week 1, month 1, 6 months out? That's one big bucket. But the other bucket is just by the nature of meeting people and attending business meetings, attending networking access, having email exchanges, it's an opportunity to say, hey, if you like what we're talking about here, here's a no pressure commitment. Join my community. You can create a free tier or free and paid. It's totally flexible. Like, hey, join my community and see what else, we're sharing, what other opportunities you want access to. So it allows people who are interested in you or your company or your products or your services to kind of get their toes wet without having to jump into the deep end and purchase right away. And then you, as the community owner, you get to nurture them. You get to see who's joining your community, and you can see, is this a current customer? Is this a lead or a prospect? And convert them down the funnel. So as you're having discussions, it's just about saying, hey, this was so nice meeting you. By the way, I have a community. If you want to continue the conversation, here's my business card, and click the QR code and join my community. Or I'm going to text you a link to join the community. And then boom, just like that, they're in there.
Well, one of the things that's also important to keep in mind is that the whole purpose of community is for just that, community. So it's not a one-to-one kind of relationship. It's a one-to-many and a many-to-one relationship, because everybody is creating content by sharing their information, sharing things that they are doing, things that they're interested in, and so on and so forth. I want to mention a couple of things. We got about 10 more minutes, and Cheryl and Mia have a couple of comments here that I'm going to put up on the screen for us to react to. But I want to give everybody 3 issues to consider before building an online community. And one of them is, do you have a clear purpose and a defined audience in mind? I mean, you really need to have that. You're basically your why. And if you're not ever really clear about what your why is, there's a guy named Simon Sinek. And if you Google Simon Sinek on Google and say why, he has a great, if you will, TED Talk. And if you've never heard it and you're thinking about doing anything, I would really suggest that you look at it. The next thing would be is that in knowing whatever that clear purpose is, do you have the capacity to create consistent value and engagement? Because if you're going to create a community, then people are going to be looking for things to happen. Now, you don't have to do it all yourself, but you have to do things to curate content being, if you will, created and shared. And you have to encourage people to do that. And lastly, can you support, the culture? Can you really make that happen? So those are some things to consider. And I see, Cheryl, you've got a question here, and your question here is on the screen. What thoughts would you share about integrating AI in online community relationships? Well, I'm going to jump into this, Cheryl, and then I'm going to kick it right over to Spencer, because I've got a question for Spencer as it relates to a conversation I had with his director of marketing. And it was about this exact question that you're asking here about integrating AI in online community relationships. And one of the things that we've been looking at is people come on to a community, then they want to search for things. I want to find a lawyer. In our community, they say, I maybe need to find a lawyer or a marketing person. And that's cool. But what if by virtue of when you come on and you become a member, the AI could say, well, you know what, Hutch, Spencer, or Cheryl, based on what you do and the things that you're interested in, there are 10 people in the community that we know that you need to meet. And so instead of you having to go searching for them, we're going to serve them up to you. What do you think? Is that a way of integrating AI into online community relationships, Spencer?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say it's center of the bullseye. And I think, for people who are interested in building community, and to respond to Cheryl's point kind of sequentially, the first step when it comes to community is to build your community. I mean, Jerome, you know this. Do you have your why? Do you have your mission? But how do you actually assemble your community? Does your community need a space for events? Does your community need a space for discussions? Does your community need a space for people to promote their products and their services, for business development? What is your mission? And then how do you build that within the technology? So to respond to the question sequentially, AI will literally, you can say 1 or 2 sentences, basically describe your community, describe your mission. And in literally 10 to 30 seconds, your community is going to get built. And of course, we all know AI at this point. It feels like magic, and it is magic. So your community gets built and you're ready to actually start engaging. The second step, when it comes, again, sequentially, as Jerome mentioned to his big points, do you have the capacity to drive engagement? And so much of engagement is related to creating content, creating opportunities that are relevant to your community members. So AI is a huge value add to there. You might say, hey, help me create an event on this topic. Boom. And now you have an event and it gets shared to all your community members. Hey, help me generate a blog post on this topic. Boom. Now you've got a post that you're sharing to all your community members. So that's the second step to the actual question at hand. And what Jerome's asking about as well, it's this idea of, I would take it even a step further from, searching with AI to matchmaking with AI. So when you join a community and you might say, listen, I'm looking for people who live in, New York, who are in the legal profession and, or who have this, these other demographics. And all of a sudden it's going to start to show you people aligned to that interest profile. So you can start to build relationships. And that's person to person, peer to peer. But it isn't that matchmaking concept isn't limited just to peer to peer. What about you want to find events on a certain topic? Well, now we're going to start showing you events on that topic. Or what if you want to find discussions on a certain topic, or domain expertise on a certain topic, or you want to take a course on a certain topic to build out a skill set or a domain expertise? This is absolutely huge, and that's exactly at the core of community. And that's how we see it: 1, 2, 3 in that sequencing.
All right, we've got 5 minutes, so I want to take a couple minutes to answer this question from Mia, and then I want Spencer to share some things with you about Networked and how you can engage with them to be able to look at pursuing your own community and how they can serve you. So Mia, do you think every brand really needs a community, or are there times when it's just not the right fit? But a community is not for everybody, just like hardly anything is, except for probably air and food. We got to breathe and eat.
And water.
And water, yeah. So, but go ahead and take that, Spencer.
What I actually might take a different angle from what Jerome said, even though I agree entirely with his point. I would say that every brand and every company, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, already has a community by the nature of it being a business. You're just not calling it that a community. So when you think of a community, what is it at its core? It is a business. And what is a business? It's a business is a place where internal teams, employees, and external stakeholders. So for one business, it might be members. For another business, it might be clients. For another business, it might be sponsors. For another business, it might be volunteers or donors. But it's a place where internal teams and external stakeholders are meeting and creating value together. So to your question, does every brand need a business? Need is the key word there. I don't think every brand needs a business, but I think every brand is a community at its core. And there's thresholds of what you want to do with your community. So for example, do you want a very lightweight community where maybe you're just sharing simple updates like a newsletter? Yes, absolutely. Every business, I believe, should have a nurturing component to communicate to their customers and their prospects on some level of frequency. That would be sort of the minimum threshold that you can do through the power of community on Networked. The other threshold, which is the opposite end of extreme, is a really robust scenario where maybe you have a marketing team and you've got a sales team, you've got a go-to-market team, maybe you've got customer success, and you're in your community, it's structured to facilitate a very robust offering. And then obviously everything in between. But I would say that every company, every band is indeed a community, because a community is a customer base or a user base that you're trying to communicate with and stay front of mind with. That would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, there's no doubt that every company and brand, your customers, the people you interact with, that is your community. And I think people have to also keep in mind that your engagement with your community should be more about listening and helping them to engage with each other than you spending so much time talking at them. It's really about the engagement, and you will learn a lot about, just even if you're talking about jewelry. I mean, it gives you an opportunity to survey people and get their input and their feedback about the things that they're like, so that when you are getting into product design and jewelry design, if you're in the jewelry business, you're going to have a better chance of meeting what the customers want, because you're now having these ongoing conversations and really understanding what they're all about. Spencer, the time has just moved so fast. If you could just take a moment and tell folks about Networked. I know that May is going to share some of your social media and internet connections so people can reach out to you. And I'm going to let you take a minute there to say that, and I'm going to wrap up. And thanks a lot for being here.
Absolutely. Well, Jerome, it's been a pleasure, not just today on this podcast, which has been, for me, a real privilege and an honor to be here. And I really appreciate those who tuned in and the questions that were asked. But more than the podcast, it's been a pleasure working with you, building a relationship with you, getting to know your business, getting to know your team, you getting to know my team. It's just been fantastic. And I'm looking forward to a long and exciting continuation of the first 6 months or so. In regards to Networked, I would kind of say that if you are a business and you're thinking about the power of community, there's no proof in the pudding like trying it, and I always kind of say, start small. When you think about what is social media, you're trying to get people to follow your page, so that way when you post you can reach them. When you think about, a community, it's the same concept at a principle, but obviously it manifests itself in a much more deeper way. But at the end of the day, you're trying to get people to join your community. And once they're in there, you're posting content, you're sharing resources that are available, and it reaches people, it reaches their inbox. So you know that it's meeting them where they're already spending time. So your community is the organizing principle of all of your opportunities, your resource, your structure, and you can deliver it to people's inboxes externally. So you know you're having reach. And then, as Jerome said, just being able to post and drive engagement is the tip of the iceberg. You can really set it up so that it's not you talking at your customers, but your customers can ask questions to your team. Your team can respond to those questions. Your customers can talk to other customers. They can see success stories. They can see social proof of concept. And this viral effect starts to kick in where all of a sudden you are able to have more and more customers with less and less effort, because your customers become ambassadors, words of mouth kick in, and your community starts to thrive. And of course, as Jerome kind of opened the call, our promise is that you can always reach a human being. That said, you probably won't need to. So you can definitely go to our website. You can sign up for a free trial. You can have a lot of fun actually using the product. We've got some great Black Friday deals that are coming up, I think maybe as early as this week, if into next week. So if you're interested, give us a shout. We'll take great care of you. I'll put you in contact with one of our, specialists on the sales side or on the setup side, depending upon where you are in your decision-making process. But Jerome, that's my 2 cents, and I'll pass it back to you.
All right, Spencer. Well, thank you so much. We are definitely on the network platform with the ICABA community. We invite you to join ICABA, and we've got a special offer, $100 off your membership today if you join, and go to joinicaba.com. I also want to thank those who've showed up, and I know there's those that we've had some comments, but we've also learned that a lot of people who are listening and paying attention, and so we want to thank you for being there as well. And we do rerun these on ICABA-TV and in the ICABA community. Also, if you're interested in community, I'm going to ask that May put my email address on the page. You can see it, hutch@icabaworld.com. I help organizations and brands and companies who are interested in community building. One of the things I'm very excited about with Network is that there is a universal ecosystem that we can all be a part of. It's the only platform I know that if you have a community on that platform, you can also have an integrated relationship with other communities on that platform, creating a true ecosystem. And so that's one of the things that sets them apart. We also have spaces. If you're interested in, maybe you've got your own group and maybe you want to get started with just a group before you go full blown into a community, join ICABA, and we can talk to you about having a space and giving you that opportunity to stair step into the next level of building out your own community. So thank you for being here today. And we're really excited about our relationship with Networked and continuing to grow. And we will be coming back again with other conversations as it relates to online community building for your brand, for your organization, as well as for your company. Thanks a lot and have a blessed day.
Awesome.